Available now on Blu-ray from Arrow Home Video is the 1970 French all-star. Well, it's not all-star, but the two stars that are in it are huge stars. Gangster comedy drama Borsalino. I'm going to say it that way every time. Borsalino stars Alain Delon and Jean-Paul Belmondo, two icons of French cinema in their day and to this day. And they just play two gangsters in Marseille, France in 1930 who both figure themselves out to be hot stuff, and they meet cute. And well, they don't meet cute. They meet beating the crap out of each other. But when they're done, they're both like, you know, you got spunk. And they decide to join forces and work their way up the criminal ladder in Marseille of the day. And it's a mixture of working their way up through helping other people out, taking care of problems for people, capers, cahoots, and just machine gunning people. That's what I was surprised with in this film, is that it starts off light, and it's a relatively light film, but every once in a while, somebody just gets machine gunned. It's like a certain scene in The Godfather that I believe in perpetual spoilers, so I'm not going to mention, but you know, there's a toll booth in The Godfather, and you don't necessarily see it coming. So you don't ever see it coming in this movie either, though after a while you start to feel like anybody can get machine gunned at any time. So this film is gorgeous to look at, really nicely shot, really nice costumes, really cool vintage clothing, locations, the interiors, like the clubs that they're in. There's lines of dancing girls in a club and all that. And just, it's a really nicely executed film. It's a little uneven because, as I say, it does go from comedy and sometimes kind of goofy comedy, sometimes very debonair and light comedy, to some kind of heavy stuff. And you never quite know when it's going to turn dark again. To me, that's very symptomatic, emblematic, high dramatic grease lightning of the late 60s, early 70s. As a kid, I saw a lot of movies from that period on TV, and it always seemed like no matter how much fun the movie was, somebody's not walking into the sunset at the end credits that you wish you would. So this is of that era. Interestingly, I'm watching this, I'm like, this really kind of has a Butch and Sundance feel. This really kind of has a Sting feel to it. And then I realized, well, this was made before the Sting, so I don't know if indeed this influenced the Sting in some way. This was a French film, but it was released, I think, internationally by Paramount. There's a stills gallery on this, and I think pretty much every poster, I'm doing this to show you that it's a stills gallery, I think pretty much every poster had the Paramount logo on it. So it was certainly a well-funded, international film. First film, by the way, that the two leads, Alain Delon and Jean-Paul Belmondo, did together. I guess they've been looking for a long time for something to get them to work together, and this was the film that did it. I don't know a lot about those guys. I know I like them, and I try to watch a lot with Delon especially, but I don't know if they work together again or not. Write if you get work, and write and let me know if they did, if there's any other good ones. So the film's very interesting, a lot of fun. Personally didn't love it, but it was really cool to be able to see, and the two leads are just so cool and so charismatic, and it's so well executed that it was I'm glad I saw it. So extras, we have an audio commentary by film scholar Josh Nelson. That's very interesting, and he gets into all the nitty-gritty with the history of the film, the location, the fact that it was sort of based on a true story, loosely. It says at the beginning that it's not, but I guess something inspired this. So then it gets into, you know, who all the actors are and where it was shot and all that stuff. So that was really cool. Always appreciate that. We have an extra called Dressing Down Elizabeth Castaldo Lundin on Borsalino. It's a discussion of the costume designer Jacques Fontaray. That's 11 minutes, and she's very, very interesting, and it gives a lot of insight into the clothes and the kind of clothes that they wear in the film and how realistic that would be for the person in the time, and how close the clothes are to clothes that would have been worn at the time. And this is me now. The biggest takeaway I had from that segment is that in her house, this is Elizabeth Castaldo Lundin, in her house or wherever they shot this, somebody has a Spies Like Us movie novelization. So there's this big shelf. Now, I don't know if you're like me. You're probably doing it right now back there. If you are, anytime there's a shelf behind somebody who's commenting, I'm always, what do they have? What's on their shelf? What's cool? If you ever see any interviews with director Frank Henenlotter from at least a while ago, he had the most amazing shelf of like old Something Weird tapes behind him, and I would be focusing more on that than what he was saying. So anyway, in the background, it's out of focus, but I could still tell. I'm like, wow, she's got a lot of videotapes. And then I look down, and if you watch this, if you remember what I'm saying, lower right-hand corner of the frame, it's the Spies Like Us movie novelization, because I knew it because I had it, and it just kind of changed everything for me. I'm like, this is really very intelligent, classy woman who's talking about costumes and things like that, and on her shelf, I presume, is the Spies Like Us novelization. Anyway, also, There's an extra called The Music of Borsalino, Neil Brand on Claude Bolling's score. That's 11 minutes, very interesting. There is a trailer, which is interesting. It's a Euro trailer from the 70s, late 60s, early 70s, so they have a really cool style to them. And there is also a still gallery that's 35 images that are on-set stills, a lot of posters, a lot of lobby cards. It's always interesting for me with the still galleries to see how different countries promoted a film, or what imagery or stills or aesthetic they used to try to sell a movie. So that's all out there, and this is available now from Arrow Home Video on Blu-ray. I'm gonna do it one more time. Borsalino.